live. And so, welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And so, if you haven't been here before, you probably don't know that this video, which is all about kitty cats, is a little off brand for my channel, since what we do here is explore language and culture. But tell you what, the connection is that, you know what? A lot of different cultures, different human cultures anyway, have in common is that we have a special relationship with animals, whether it be farm animals or pets or anything like that. And so cats are one of the most popular pets to have on the planet, and along with others, of course, but they are certainly uh, there are certainly many cats. For example, did you know that there are more cats than dogs in the US and Canada and France? And I don't know how many other countries, but they might hold true there too. And so tonight we're going to talk about cats and lots of things that you should know about cats because they are different than other domesticated animals for sure. And that's in part because cats domesticated themselves rather than humans domesticating them. And so that makes them different than other animals like dogs or sheep or even pigs. Because in the case of dogs, for instance, humans started, uh, uh, well, living alongside some wolves. And so we started breeding the wolves that we found the most useful and the ones that will behaviorally uh, we like too, but of course, most useful behaviors. And so we had a lot of control over the genetics that went into them. And so that's not the case for cats because you might know how cats sort of domesticated themselves, and so it's not like humans were really breeding them since forever because modern cat breeds that we know of, like Siamese, like little Dewey here, or Maine Coon, or Ragdoll, these are fairly modern. The breeding of them was fairly modern, relatively speaking. But what happened literally thousands of years ago is you have humans started storing grains and other foodstuffs in storage areas and stores of grains and whatnot. And so what that brought along with was a lot of mice and other rodents and things like that. And so that's what brought in the cats as well, because the cats had never had such an easy hunting ground before. Because when you get a store of grain and all of a sudden you have several hundred mice all there in the same place, the cats were all like, and these were wild cats, of course, they were all like, oh, fantastic, this is the best hunting ground ever. And so they ended up sort of hanging out around humans because they were following their prey pretty much. So that's why cats learned to be around humans, and they did not. This did not depend on humans breeding wild cats together to get specific traits, because actually, fact is, almost every house cat on the planet finds its lineage, its ancestry in only, I think, as few as only five female wild Near Eastern cats. The Near Eastern wild cats, you might also know of them as African wild cats. So they are the kind of wild cat that's actually ancestors to all of our house cats, no matter what breed you've got of house cats. Oh, hi, Sunshine. It's nice to see you in the chat. Um, uh, yes, that's right. There is an argument to be made that cats are not technically domesticated. And like I said, that has to do with they sort of did it themselves. And so humans were not the ones picking out what cats to get to live around humans. It's more the cats were following the mice because the mice were following all the stores of grain that humans had put into it. And so all this kind of explains how cats are a little more wild than some other pets that we get, other domesticated animals, because humans were not the ones in charge of what genes went into what cats. These African wild cats just first, the first generation of them were attracted to all the mice that were around all the stores of food. Okay, see you later, Dewey. and and so that's why we got to be careful about how we react to them, how we analyze their behaviors, because since they have this like wild streak in them, they're more reactive little crazy little beasts basically. um, uh, it's up to us to help them feel safe and help them feel at ease, because cats are, yeah, they're known for being predators in the wild, but they're also prey, especially house cat sized cats. They're a little smaller than the great wild cats, and but so are African wild cats. They're not huge like lions or tigers. They're a little closer to house cat size. And so, anyway, this brings me to we want to help them feel safe in order to get along with them really well. And that brings me to I wanted to share an acronym with you. An acronym to help a cat caretaker. I call cats so-called owners the caretakers because I feel more like the cats end up owning me a little more than the other way around. But the acronym is simple: CAT, CAT. And so the C is for choice slash control. A is for attention slash actions. And T is for touching, which is related to the A. So choice slash control for the C. It's important for a caretaker of the cat to give your cat options. Cats really like having choice over things because cats feel the most safe when they're in control. And so, since we're keeping these house cats, that since I mean are pets, one could call them prisoners of sorts, especially the indoor only cats. Although I like to think of them more as roommates, but hey, and so they feel the safest when they're in control. And so even if you're really in control because you're the one who decides when they get if or when they get to go outside, which I would recommend keeping your cat indoor, especially if you live in an urban setting. But giving them choices helps them at least have the illusion that they're in control, which helps them get along better with the humans and other animals around them. So that's a pretty good thing. So C for choice or control. Now on to the A. Again, the acronym is just CAT, cat. So the C is for give them choices so they feel like they have some control. And A is for attention and actions, because that's how cats are mostly going to give away how they're feeling and what's going on with them is through their actions. So you pay close attention to their actions, and that will tell you everything you need to know about the cat and how it's doing and how it's feeling. So please do pay close attention to their actions and don't personify them as if and so I mean don't interpret their actions the same way you would interpret a person's actions or a dog's for that matter. Dog psychology very different than cat psychology, which also is different from human psychology. So pay a lot of attention to their actions to know what they like and don't like, what makes them feel comfortable and safe versus not. That can go really far. So CAT, C for choice slash control. Give them options so they feel they're in control. And A for attention slash actions. Pay a lot of attention to the cat's actions because they're really communicating a lot about how they're feeling, and what's going on with them through their actions. And so that's also very related to T, touching. Be very wary, be very careful about your interaction with them touching. They get overstimulated very easy, so we don't want to do that. Um, and uh, so, yeah, that's my advice is remember that acronym CAT, control slash choice, action slash attention, and T for touching. That will help you and your feline friend get along as well as possibly can. And like I said, they're kind of wilder than some other pets because humans didn't domesticate them. They sort of brought themselves into human society a little bit because they were chasing the mice and other rodents that were after our food, pretty much. And so again, that's a way to make them feel safe is pay attention to their actions, be careful with their touching, and yeah, so I will bring that acronym back near the end of the stream because I think it is important for anybody who owns a cat or who is thinking about getting a cat to really keep in mind. Now, one fun fact, oh, I have literally dozens of facts that are useful to know about cats, especially if you're thinking of getting one or have one and you want to get along with it better. And one first fun fact is something that surprised me. It's not so much behavioral, but it's do you know that every single cat has a very unique nose print? And yeah, just like humans have fingerprints, our fingerprints are unique to us. Same with a cat's nose. Their nose print is going to be unique, going to be individual for each cat. Not a single two are alike. Every single cat's nose is a little bit different, and they got prints to prove it on there. And I'm not suggesting that you go ahead and nose print your cat with ink and everything like that because nobody wants your cat to be breathing in any ink, right? That could be toxic. But I just thought that was a good fun fact to sort of start off with because cats' noses and their nose prints are every bit as unique as our fingerprints are for humans. And so, a second thing I wanted to bring up is how a lot of people think the cats are nocturnal, but they're totally not. They are what's known as crepuscular. And we end up, humans, since we're more diurnal than anything else, we're mostly around in the day, we end up thinking that everything that's not diurnal is nocturnal. But there's not just those two, the thing in between is crepuscular, which means these are things that are the most active during twilight, during at dusk and dawn hours and the times leading up to and following those. And so that explains why cats are so good at seeing in very low lights, right? Because they have to be active and hunting and everything even before the sun is up or right before the sun is up when sometimes light's a little dim. And there you go. So cats are crepuscular, they're not nocturnal because they're most active around twilight, pretty much. And another thing I wanted to mention, which has to do with cats' behavior and keeping them safe, is they don't always land on their feet. We have this sort of, which they do often, they have this way of self righting, like uprighting themselves when they're falling, which does mean that often they will land on 2 feet. But I don't know if you've ever known a cat who I have, um, who fell just like 20 feet or so, 22 feet or so, and she broke her leg because she didn't land equally on all fours and whatnot. So that's important to bear in mind. So let's not leave our cats out on patios that are on the second or third story, just assuming they'll be fine even if they fall, because that's not necessarily true. So that's a good way to keep your cat safe, is make sure they're not falling. And even from a medium height, could be dangerous and involve, well, broken bones and all that. So let's not go there, right? And so another thing that a lot of people don't know about cats and might change what you're willing to feed them is the cats do not at all taste sweet. They can't taste sweetness. And why not? Because they're natural predators in the world. Like, they're natural carnivores, is what I'm saying, which means they never develop the taste buds to taste for sweet because it's irrelevant. They're all about that umami flavor, right? The savory meat type flavor. Um, and so they won't taste sweetness. So, what I'm saying is, it's kind of a terrible idea to let your cat finish your ice cream or something. A lot of people end up feeding cats a little ice cream, and that to me is nonsensical for two reasons. Number one, they cannot taste sweet. So they will not at all be tasting the sweetness that we do out of the ice cream. And on top of that, cats are lactose intolerant, right? Because in the natural order of things, mammals, we only drink the milk from our own species, and that even only when we're babies and little kids. Humans are sort of different in that way, that we're obsessed with cow's milk and all that. And so cats cannot really tolerate that. So no ice cream for your kitty cat because they don't taste the sweet, and lactose is going to make their tummies uh, a little upset. And nobody likes a cat with an upset stomach, right? Because nobody likes doing the cleanup afterwards, right? Anyway, so there's that. And the next two facts are very related to each other that I wanted to share, uh, and it's all about the coat and chromosomes. And so the first one is that, did you know that pretty much most all calico and tortoiseshell cats are female? They're almost always female. And why is that? Because these both often have orange and black colors on them. And so the gene that will make a cat so black in the coat is on the X chromosome. Same thing goes for the gene that shows orange in the coat. And so, if a cat has both black and orange, which we think of as typical for tortoiseshell and calico cats, that means that they need to have two X chromosomes to do that, right? One which has the black gene and the other that has the orange gene. So that's why you find very few males who have these things because it's not in their genetics, basically. And so, speaking of how on the X chromosome is the only place that where you can have the orange, the gene to show orange, that kind of explains why most orange cats, orange tabbies, they're little orange, often with a little striping and whatnot. 80% of orange cats or so are male. And that's again because it's easier to come out all orange if you only have one X chromosome, right? For a female to come out as an orange cat, they would have to have the gene for orange on each of their X chromosomes, so it's a whole lot less likely to happen. And so male cats are the ones who end up being orange cats. At least 4 out of every 5 orange cats are male, and it's a chromosome thing because they only have one X chromosome, so it ends up being more likely um, that they will be the ones just showing orange on their coats and whatnot. And so that's just some fun facts about their genetics. And I love orange cats. I had one once upon a time, His name was Kitten. Well, we started wanting to name him Lily, and then we found out he was a boy, so he kept the name Kitten. Until years later, some new roommates that he got ended up naming him Yellow Cat, but he was an orange cat and super sweet. Anyway, um, so on to other things. Oh, a lot of people might know this that cats only meow for humans. If a cat, wild cats don't meow. Doesn't care whether they're a great cat, one of the huge ones like jaguars or lions or tigers, or whether they're smaller ones like a uh, jaguarundi or a rusty spotted cat or anything. They don't meow in the wild because they're trying to speak human when they meow. Um, Oh, Sunshine, you say you have two orange cats, one long hair and one short hair. Good for you. I love wild cats and the temperament. They're always so much better with the cuddling and stuff like that. Well, often anyway. Uh, Very cool. And I do love orange cats. And so again, cats only meow for humans. That's your cat's way of trying to speak human, right? I like to think of my cat Dewey as bilingual because he seems to understand me just fine whether I'm speaking to him in English or in French. But the fact is, when he's speaking, he just speaks meow, right? And that's him trying to talk human, basically. And so you won't find that in the wild ever. Although one thing the wild cats and house cats both do is if they're having a standoff, like almost getting ready to fight, they do scream like that. I don't know if you've ever heard bobcats or lynx sort of having a standoff. The whole screaming phase, this comes even before the face slapping phase. You know how kitty cats always start fights by slapping each other in the face. Anyway, the screaming happens sooner, and yeah, when lynx do it, it's even louder and more scarier, in my opinion. So that's not just a house cat thing; that's a wild cat thing too. And but meowing, that is house cats alone, and nobody else, no other kind of cats will ever do that because no other kinds of cats is trying to speak human, right? And cats, and speaking of cats speaking and people speaking to them, some people seem to be under the misconception that cats don't understand their names, but cats are very much capable of recognizing their names and distinguishing them from any other word that they're hearing from a human's mouth. But the thing is, they just might not care at a given time. It depends on the motivation and whatnot, whether they're actually going to respond to you or not. That depends on how they're feeling in a given moment. So this makes some people think, oh, my cat doesn't recognize its name. Oh, it does. It just didn't care when you said it just now, right? So that's a fun thing. Just knowing that cats very much they are able to pick up many words from the human language, especially if you're speaking to them directly in it lots. They will distinguish some vocabulary. Usually not as good of a vocabulary as a dog can pick up, but they can distinguish between some words, and most definitely they will know their name when you say it as opposed to any other word. But the thing is, yeah, they might not feel like just coming because you called. So it's yeah, they know their name. They just don't always care that you say it. Anyway, so there's that. And what did I want to get to next? Oh, cats purring. I wanted to talk about the purrs a little bit, which is also not completely unique to house cats alone. Okay, but purring. Um, Their purrs have what you would call natural healing powers. And why is that? Because why are we hearing a cat purr? That's because there's all this vibration going on, the vibrating, which is also why the greatest wild cats like lions and tigers cannot purr. Because what the cats are using to purr is made of cartilage, and that can vibrate and give us the purring sound and all that. And a cat, you don't just hear the purr, you can also feel it if you touch them, right? Because they're vibrating at a certain frequency. And since lions and tigers, that part is made of bone, not cartilage, they cannot purr. They wouldn't be able to purr even if they wanted to. But speaking of house cats who do purr, their purrs have some healing powers because they purr at a frequency which can encourage um, growth and repair of skin and flesh and even bones to a certain extent. So your cat can actually help you heal a little bit. And this often happens when we have somebody injured a little bit, and then the cat will come and lay down like right near the injury, right on it and whatnot. And so purring, that part, the vibration that's coming out of all that is a good frequency to help you heal. And guess what? They can also, in some ways, help heal themselves over that. And I'll get back to that in a little bit when I talk about another fact about purring. But yeah, so cats are walking around, they're natural healers, not necessarily on purpose, but they do. They're vibrating at a certain frequency, which helps encourage healing of skin and flesh and bones. So not just cat healing, but also human healing can be taken from that. And so yeah, cats are totally like little natural healers walking around, even though they don't necessarily mean it. I don't know. Like I said, they don't really speak English or French for that matter. Um, so I can't really ask them. But they're capable. Excuse me. And oh, and another thing that cats do, most of us are familiar with. You know, when cats are kneading, kneading with a K, Kneading, kneading. We also call it making biscuits. You know, when cats are pushing on either blankets or cushions or pillows or even on your body. If you have a cat laying on you and they seem like they're trying to soften you up, you know? What that's all about is not because the cat is planning to devour you and soften you up or anything. Like I said, they're natural healers in a way. It's what it means is that they feel safe. And so that's a really good thing when a cat is making biscuits because you know they're feeling safe around you. So that's a fantastic way to be. That's a fantastic good sign from their cat. And again, like I said, you should be paying attention to their actions. That's the A in the acronym CAT is attention to their actions. And if they are making biscuits, you know they're feeling safe around you. So that's a fantastic thing. And oddly enough, one other way they show that they're feeling safe is when they show you their butt, which is a little less pleasant. You know, not everybody, a lot of people don't really like seeing cat butt, but that's totally a sign that they trust you, that they feel safe around you. They don't really mean anything else by it, right? They're not doing that to taunt us or anything like that. No. Anyway, so yeah, when they're making biscuits, that means they're feeling safe. Which can be a good sign that they trust you. And now, what's with the cat's obsession with boxes, with cardboard boxes and other boxes? What's that all about? Um, and cats, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I've had a lot of cats who it barely looks like they will even fit in the box, but they do. They get themselves in there and they might even start purring, all happy about it. And why are cats so obsessed with being in boxes? It's because, again, it comes back to making them feel safe. Like being in confined spaces for a cat, that provides security for them. Because, sure, in the wild, they are predators, but they're also prey. So being in a nice confined space, that makes them feel secure. It makes them feel safe. And so I shop on Amazon a lot, which means I end up with plenty of cardboard boxes laying around. And mostly before I recycle them, leave them around for the cats because they always seem to appreciate that. And so much as I don't have so many boxes around that it's getting hard to walk around my apartment, I'm fine with it. And oh, Sunshine, you're saying you had a cat who once tried to cram himself into a VHS box? That's funny. I can't imagine if it had, if it thought it would be going. Well, hopefully, I think eventually your cat's whiskers would have tipped it off to the fact that it would never fit. Because that's another thing I was going to get to. I guess I can get to that right now. Whiskers are, they're like fairly high tech sensors. Whiskers on cats, they can tell when there's changes in the air and things like that with their whiskers. He wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and so the whiskers are supposed to tip them off to things like changes in the air, the direction, or pressure in the air and whatnot. They can tell them from that. But another thing they're widely used for is a cat uses their whiskers to try to see whether they can fit through a tight space. And that's one interesting thing about cats is as long as it finds a space that it can get through without its whiskers touching on anything, without its whiskers hitting anything, then the cat knows that it itself can fit all the way through that space, which this may not apply to some of the more obese cats, but they are wriggly, that. But no, so that's one thing. So that's a very important reason to bring up that you should never be clipping, trimming, or removing your cat's whiskers because otherwise it's going to end up getting stuck somewhere it really shouldn't be. And that's also a danger if you have a cat who got anywhere near enough to a fire where its whiskers sort of melted, where it lost some whiskers, then that cat might be in danger before its whiskers grow back of ending up getting stuck into a smaller space. So keep an eye out for them while they heal. That I will certainly advise anybody. So never ever trim your cat's whiskers to make them short. They're supposed to be that long. That helps them not get stuck in somewhere that's way too small for them, right? There we go. And so getting back to um, what else cats do, useful behavior. The slow blinking thing. If a cat blinks at you very slowly, like here's the cat's eye, they lower them, they close them very slowly, keep them closed for maybe just half a second, and then open them up. That's a cat's way of saying I love you. Or more specifically, that's a cat's way of saying I trust you. That's a cat's way of telling you that they trust you. And that's also how you can say I love you to your cat. And you gotta, soften your eyes a little bit and just blink very slowly. Close your eyes fairly slowly, leave them closed for maybe just half a second or a whole second. Then open them up slowly. And that's your way of telling your cat that you trust them too. Um, and I used to know this before I ever watched my cat from hell. I already knew this because I made a game of it where if I'm in a room with the cat and the cat's like on a piece of furniture 10 feet away from me, I look to it and see if I can slow blink and get the cat to do that back to me. And that's our way of telling each other I love you from across the room, or at least I trust you at the very least. And so that's slow blinking. So that's a little love language between you and your cat. It can be. Um, and so I do highly recommend it. And see if you can slow blink at a cat. And if it blinks back at you, that means you guys have built a good amount of trust, which will help in your relationship in the future. And if it's not responding to slow blinking, well, it might not trust you. You never know. Anyway, so there's all of that. And uh, oh, other behavioral things you can notice on your cat. If a cat is really wagging its tail around a lot, that's very different than a dog is doing it, right? Because when a dog is wagging its tail a lot, that means it's really happy, it's showing joy, or maybe even just it's really excited about something good excited rather. Uh, and so that tells you, oh, they're experiencing joy right now. Whereas a cat, if a cat is really wagging its tail, that's telling something very different. Actually, it's really showing that they're um, yeah, it's not joy. It's actually showing they're irritated at the very least. Possibly it's showing anxiety, irritation, stress. So those are very different signs than when a dog does it. And occasionally, if you see a cat's tail kind of twitching a little bit, um, twitching around a little bit, sometimes that means they're stalking something. That's part of their hunting routine. So that's a different story. But a lot of times, if your cat's tail is wagging, is not meaning that the cat is happy. So please don't interpret it that way because cats and dogs very different, very different than each other. And so what else about other uh, things about your cat's accents? Okay, even though cats have a very deserved reputation for being aloof, which I think that's fair enough that they get that. They can often act that way. Like I said, they know their name, they just might not care when you're calling it. Um, but yeah, when they are, um, yeah, when cats, that this is part of why cats get so mad when you go spend the night somewhere else and leave them alone or something, is because without interaction with people, um, without attention from people and interaction, they get bored and they even get lonely. And some of them hold grudges over this. I don't know. I used to have a cat named Alfie who he was a couple months older than me, actually. We grew up together. And whenever my mom was away for a couple of days and then she came back, he would give her a nice little chomp on the nose, like a little bite really quickly to just say, "Hey, you jerk, you left me alone for too long." And that's it. And that's because cats do need and even crave a certain amount of interaction with people. And what I'm saying is cats are not completely indifferent to us and to our presence, right? It's important to them to interact with you to a certain extent. Um, so that's a misconception a lot of people have. And so please do know that your cat needs to interact with you. That's important for most cats. Some like to interact more often or more than others, but they do get lonely and they do get bored and they will hold a grudge about that a lot of times. So yeah, please make sure you are interacting with your cat enough to satisfy them and you. And that's why a lot of times, like, I don't recommend people use automated cat toys, like mechanical ones and whatnot. I often recommend that people are using interactive toys, like a cat charmer, one of those wands with a fabric or a string like thing hanging off the end so they can hunt whatever is flying around on the end of it. Interactive toys. That's a very good thing, in part because cats really do, they need a little attention from you. So there you go. And now, on top of the cats do in fact need a certain amount of attention because they're not indifferent to us. I wanted to bring up that along with the play thing I mentioned, they kind of cats kind of need to hunt even indoors. They need to at least go through hunting actions. So again, interactive toys that make them give them the opportunity to uh, catch and even take possession of something, even sink their teeth into it or anything. That's going to be good for them because they really need to hunt indoors, even not just outdoors, but also indoors because it keeps them mentally sharp and it keeps them physically fit. And plus, it's a super, it keeps them safely entertained indoors. Um, and true, this is part of why humans have tolerated having cats around all this time too, is because they help us with mice problems and stuff like that because they're into hunting and whatnot. And even moths. My cats, if there's moths flying around, they go for them too. But anyway, but yeah, so it's a safe way for them to remain entertained indoors and it will keep them mentally sharp and physically fit. So hunting is a good thing, even if your cat is only an indoor cat, which I do recommend. I only have indoor cats these days because the truth is they will live longer that way. There are a lot of dangers for cats outdoors, and especially because I live in an urban area, or getting hit by a car, or getting hurt or kidnapped by some other human, catnapped rather, um, is a real danger. And so, anyway, so there's that. And I'm not a veterinarian or a cat behaviorist, but I am a cat lover since way back. Like I said, I grew up with the cat Alfie, and I have read a lot about them. Like when I got Dewey there, who is not just Siamese, he's a specific pedigree snowshoe. I got a book about snowshoe cats to learn all I could about them to be the best cat mom I could be. And yeah, so there's that. Cats do need to hunt indoors, even. And so, oh yeah, other behavioral things. If a cat is either peeing or pooping outside the litter box, that's not just a behavioral problem. That's not just bad behavior. Okay, it's not just doesn't just need to be corrected because it's bad behavior and it's messy. It's often a sign that they're feeling either stressed or it's or insecure, anxious, or there's some underlying medical issue such as arthritis. Arthritis can often make a cat avoid the litter box and other medical issues. So if you have a cat who's avoiding the litter box, if they're peeing or pooping outside of it, you should really look into their other actions and maybe bring it to a vet to see if there's anything else medical going on with it. And by the way, most cats ages like 7 and older do have a certain amount of arthritis. So, one way to fix the avoidance, if you have an older cat and they're avoiding the litter box, one possible solution is getting a litter box where they don't have to step up so high to get in it, right? A low entrance litter box. That might help because it might lead them back towards the litter box, even though they do have arthritis. If they don't end up having aches and pains just from getting in or out of it, they might be more likely to use it. But like I said, could be a sign of a bunch of different medical symptoms. So maybe bring it to a vet. Anyway, that's just my advice on that. And oh, one last thing. Well, this isn't the very last thing, but we're nearing the end. Um, and one thing I wanted to make sure I definitely did bring up with you is that cats exposing their belly to you, if your cat lays on its back, exposes belly to you, that is not an invitation to start rubbing its belly. It's not an invitation to start touching it, okay? What it does mean, well, what a cat showing you its belly means for most cats is just that they feel um, safe around you. It's a sign that they trust you, just like the slow blink that I talked about. The cat exposing its belly is also a good sign that it really feels safe around you, that it really trusts you. And so you definitely do not want to go violating their trust by going in for petting their bellies. There are the occasional cat. I have known cats who have enjoyed belly rubbings, but they're super rare as far as that goes. It's not like a dog when they're exposing their belly to you. Usually, that's kind of an invitation to rub it for for the majority of dogs, whereas for a vast majority of cats, it's really not. So don't interpret it as if it were, even though it is super tempting. I know you see a cat belly, you want to just pet it, but what's a better move right there is give it some scratches on the head or around the ears, or maybe even rubbing around the jawbone and all that. Cats love that. But do not go right for the petting of the belly. I used to know a cat named Trixie who she has passed away sadly, but she would often do that. Go expose her belly, and as soon as somebody goes to pet it, all four of her paws and everything, and sometimes her mouth too, come at that hand that's going right for him, because this was not an invitation to go touch her belly. This was just saying that she trusts you, and so uh, and that was good for a cat named Trixie, because it seemed kind of like she was tricking you into a point to attack her, but that's not really it. It's just that she was never inviting you to rub her belly in the first place. And so, also, again, I wanted to bring back how cats, they really love having choices, having different options for things. Cats really do that because, again, like I mentioned near the beginning of this video, cats feel safest when they're in control. Uh, and so that's why they like having choices over things, because that gives them the feeling that they're in control. And so they feel the very safest they could. And I promised to bring back the acronym near the very end of this, so I'm doing that now. Again, the acronym to help you get along as well as you can with your feline friend is CAT, C-A-T. And so the C is for choice slash control. So give them options, give them choices to make. Don't just force one thing on them. That will help them feel like they're in control if they can pick this, that, or the other. They will feel like they're in control, and they will feel the safest they can, and so they will then get along the best with you that they can. And so the A, so C is for choice slash control. A is for attention slash actions. So you want to be really paying attention to the actions of your cat to know what they like and don't like, to know how they're feeling. Are they looking anxious or relaxed or anything? You can read a lot in your cat based on their actions, and that's a really good way uh, to learn to communicate better with your cat, or at least read their communicating. What they're trying to communicate, maybe unconsciously or subconsciously, but they are giving you lots of signs about how happy they are, how stressed they are, all of this through their actions. And of course, related to pay attention to their actions, touching. When you're touching your cat, when you're petting your cat, again, help them feel like they're the one in control. And you will can do this by you're only touching them, where they're liking it, and don't and again, don't just go in for a belly rub because you see access to a belly. Um, Pay attention to how they're reacting every time you're touching them, and so gauge your petting that way. And so again, acronym CAT, CAT. That will help you get along as well as you can with your kitty friends and all of that. And we have another chat. You, um, oh no, sorry, I didn't notice that either. Um, oh well, I think I have. Yeah, I have answered every meaningful thing in the chat. And oh, somebody says you better be an artist. Yeah, that little painting up there, that's my work actually. Um, I do like painting. I'm not very good at it, but I do like it, and I also sketch a little bit. And more artistically, I'm more of a musician. I do a lot more, such as those drums are mine, for instance, or that. I do more music. Uh, I'm not as much of a visual artist, but I do enjoy it. But anyway, so yeah, I think now I've answered all the meaningful comments in the chat. So yeah, that's all I had to say for now. And since I have no other questions, I think that's a good place to thank you so much. And I do mean that. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this Friday night. I appreciate that so much. And yeah, and so I will be, I'm looking very much forward to talking to you again really soon. And so until then, catch you around next time. Bye bye.